Welcome everyone to Talent Talks on a topic that's really close to my own heart, volunteerism. For those of you who don't know me, I'm Tammy Henry, Internal Communications, and with me here today are Bob Legal. Many of you do know him. He's the man behind the scenes with all of the benefits that we get to enjoy at Talend. And I'm also happy to introduce a friend of mine, Jeff Allen. He, aside from his day job, Jeff is the owner of Monkey's House, which we're going to talk about today in Talent Talks as we consider our own volunteer efforts. So, Bob, it's really your show, so I wanted to give you the opportunity to kick us off.
Thank you, Tammy. Yes, I wanted to remind our Talend employees of our new global benefits. Employees have received global wellness funds, a full shutdown week in August. Hopefully you've made your vacation plans. And of course, 3 paid days off to volunteer for an organization of your choice. I know we're all busy, and these programs we really need Talendians to embrace. So the question I wanted to put to everyone is, have you considered where you're going to volunteer this year? Some of us have a place we routinely volunteer for. Some of us may volunteer occasionally. And then there's those of us who don't normally have the time. So whatever your experience with volunteerism is, you now have the option to consider and plan where you're going to make a difference in your community. So as most of us already know, volunteering can be a rewarding personal experience. When you do good for others, it doesn't just give you a sense of accomplishment and pride. It's actually been proven to reduce stress levels. So it's a win-win.
Right. So, and that's why we're so happy to have our external speaker here, Jeff, really to get us all inspired, to get us thinking about what are we going to volunteer this year. So it really is that opportunity to find what we're passionate about, give our energy to something that we really care about. So I will start with a brief intro. So Jeff and his wife, they live in Southampton, New Jersey. They have a 6-acre property there, and they have turned it into a hospice and a sanctuary where dogs can live out their final years. So I think Jeff, for you and your wife, it's really a labor of love. And it's something that he's really grown through the years. It's a charitable organization. They've actually got quite a bit of media attention on Monkey's House. They recently won USA Today's Best of Animal Kind Award. I thought what we could do is, in Talent Talks fashion, we'll go through a Q&A so that you can share your story in that fashion. All right, so our first question, it'd be great if you could share with our employees just, how this idea started and how it took off for you.
Well, first, Tammy, thank you so much, and Bob, for having me here, talking to the Talend team, and hopefully inspiring them to do some volunteerism. It starts small, like you said, Tammy. I remember it was 7-8 years ago. I started talking about how we loved animals, Michelle and I. We started fostering dogs, and that's really how it started. The individual activity of just fostering a dog. And my wife was a nurse. She's retired now. And so we got all the sick dogs. The shelters gave us the really sick dogs. And we realized that there's very little to no finances or support for those type of dogs. They're usually senior dogs with major medical issues. Terminal. So the one dog that we fostered, his name was Monkey, and the shelter vet said, "Here, take Monkey home, just keep him comfortable, and he'll pass in about a month or 2. Well, especially with Michelle, that didn't sit well at all. So she said he needs to see a cardiologist. So we actually adopted him. He saw our vet, cardiologist, got very cheap meds, and he was with us for 17 months and lived a great life. And after that, we said, that's it. We have to start this because there was no support for these dogs.
Okay, I'm gonna try not to choke up when I hear this. So what do you wish you had known when you first started the dog sanctuary? What's the biggest challenge you guys had to overcome?
There's so many challenges when you do start something big like that. I think the challenge is really resources, and resources is financial, but I think the biggest resource is volunteers, right? Or who's going to help you do this? And there's so many things with any nonprofit. It could be a dog hospice like ours. It could be something for children, seniors, even environment. But there's so much needed from, hands-on work, I call it back office work. So you could be a programmer, you could be excellent in design work, websites. All of that is needed. So those are the things that we didn't realize. We started and said, okay, we're going to care for these dogs, but there's so much more than just caring for dogs.
That's such a good point. Even as people think about where can I volunteer, you may have talents that, place that you wouldn't think needs your help might actually need those skills. Okay, so the next question. So I know you're a full-time professional at CSL Behring. How do you find the time? And I believe your wife is dedicated to this, but how do you find the time to really commit to Monkey's House?
Yeah, Tammy, you're right. Michelle is 24/7 Monkey's House, really taking care of the dogs. I do have a full-time job, just like your team has. And I do find time. When something is that important to you, when you have a passion, you'll find time. You'll stop watching so much TV because you will find time to do things. Especially, we're a little extreme, right? We've completely changed our lives. There's 25 dogs living here with us at any moment that needs our help. And like I said, all the back office things. But most people don't start out that way. They start out maybe fostering a dog, maybe volunteering at a soup kitchen, simple things. Maybe it's 1 day a week, maybe it's 2 days a week. So I think everybody has that capacity to volunteer somewhere, and it's a great feeling to help out.
It is. So would you say in general that the starting Monkey's House and where you're at this point, has this really changed your outlook in life? Has it added meaning for you?
Dogs live for the moment. If you went to anybody, human, us, and we go to the doctors and the doctor says, you know what, I'm really sorry to tell you, but you have a terminal diagnosis and you have 6 months to live. Well, are we going to live for those 6 months? Or are we going to be really depressed, sad? Dogs aren't that way. They know that, they live for every day. And that's what I've learned from them. They're like, look, every day is an opportunity to enjoy. And positive. You always be positive. We don't think of the negative. Most of the dogs that come to us have had a horrible previous life. But we don't think of that. When they come to us and we think of that time, how can we make their life better for however long they have with us? So that's what I kind of think for us as people, right? How do we make our lives better? And how do we make our lives better for other people or other animals?
That's great. All right. So since we're talking about volunteers, can you share a little bit like what the volunteers do at your organization, how they help out?
Sure. So our volunteers, because we want them to really be engaged with the dogs, we call them aunts and uncles. Right? We have mostly aunts. We have a few uncles, and most of the people, we have all age ranges, but they come to the house. They truly are aunts to these dogs, or uncles to the dogs. They fall in love with the dogs. So besides, just sometimes just sitting there and having a dog on their lap, there's many things to do. We have an industrial washing machine. They could be doing washing. They could be out cleaning up the backyard. They could be taking walks. But some of the really fun things that we do with the aunts and uncles is we have a senior dog bus. It's called Wagon One. Everybody, 25 plus dogs pile in, some of the volunteers, and then the other ones meet us at places like the Jersey Shore. So we'll go to the Jersey Shore, we'll take field trips. We just finished up our annual field trip with Santa Claus. So all the dogs go, they get dressed up in their little Christmas outfits, and it's a lot of fun. So the volunteers get so much out of this. And what I find is that the volunteers, just like any of us, they kind of gravitate to one or two of the dogs, and they actually fall in love with these dogs, and they're with them for those fun trips I talked about. But even in the sad times, when it's time to assist the dog to go to the Rainbow Bridge, those aunts or uncles that are really connected, a lot of times those dogs are sitting on their laps when the dogs do make their journey.
That's amazing. And what about the dogs themselves? So, in doing a little research on what you've been up to, I know you call some of them imposters. So I was hoping you could share why some of your dogs are actually imposters.
It's funny you mentioned that, Tammy. Most of us would think we don't like imposters, right? We hate that term, an imposter. We love the term imposter. Dogs come to us, they're recommended to come to us through shelters. The shelter vet says this dog is terminal. We bring them to Monkey's house, our house, and they get great vet care, they get physical therapy if they need it. The one big thing we're into is food therapy. So they get home cooked or raw food with supplements. They also get traditional medication if needed. But on those meals, so if they have cancer, they get a certain type of meal. If they have a heart disease, they might get something else. So they're all customized. We've seen these dogs outlive. The shelter vet says this dog has a few months. They're with us 2.5 years later.
Wow.
So it is quite amazing to see that when you really take care, and I think it's a lot of it's the love too, but it's that the love that the volunteers come give these dogs. It's quite amazing.
Wow, that's great. So, and I know one of your sayings is we should all, those of us who are pet owners, we should hug our vets.
So what that saying means is if you have, and it relates to even if you have a child or an older person in your family that has medical conditions, you want to get the best, but for a pet, you want the best vet. You're going to want a vet that here's what you are saying. I mean, you're not the expert, but still understands your feelings for your pet. They want the best for the pet. And the reason we say you want to be able to hug your vet, obviously in COVID times, you don't hug your vet. And maybe even normal times you don't, but you'd want to, because you want to make sure, the majority of vets are traditional vets. Like I said, we do traditional, but we do non-traditional as well. And we have examples. In my book, I go through examples of that, where we do non-traditional modalities, and it really extends the life. So if you have a traditional vet, you can talk to them, and a lot of traditional vets are leaning more, and they're opening up to some of the non-traditional. That's what I'm saying. You want your vet to be open-minded about these things.
That's great. Yeah, that's great advice. So you mentioned your book. I just want to say it's a best-selling book, Where Dogs Go to Live, if anyone's interested. So could you actually share a little bit about that book? I know you wrote it also with volunteers in mind and how they contribute. So it would just be great if you kind of gave an overview.
Sure. I'll do a little plug. Here's my book, Where Dogs Go to Live. People ask me, why did I write the book? And you're right, I do. There's a whole chapter in here about volunteers, and throughout the book, the volunteers are weaved in with the dogs. But the reason I did that, there's 37 stories of dogs that we've taken in. It's their stories, because their story needs to be told. These dogs, senior dogs, major medical issues. If we didn't take them, the 99% of them would have been walked into the back of the shelter, never to be seen again. Right? And here they are living life. One thing we say is, just because you're dying doesn't mean you can't live. And that's our philosophy. It's like, look, we get them as healthy as possible to live that remaining time they have. And the volunteers are key to that. They're taking them on walks. They're taking them to the trips. Or some of these dogs have trouble eating, so they'll sit on somebody's lap as they feed the dog. There's so many things that the volunteers do. We couldn't do it without them.
Right. So any sort of final words as our employees think about where they want to volunteer, find their passion, what inspires them?
Well, embracing social responsibility isn't just the right thing to do for our communities. It gives us a chance to be part of something that's so much bigger, right? Something that we feel strongly about, a passion. So I think you have to have a passion, or at least a very strong feeling about it. And it has to be near and dear to our hearts. Maybe it's something connected to the environment. Maybe it's the dog hospice. Maybe it's a cat rescue. Or it could be something with children or seniors. I think you have to remember that our actions are very important, right? It's especially in the world today. I think if we all are a little bit more gentler and helping out, volunteering, I think it's going to make a huge difference in getting us all together. And when I said before, some people come here one day a week. That's great, because we have a lot of volunteers that come here one day a week. I think that collectively really helps Monkey's House and will help any nonprofit, is to, like I said, some people come 5 days a week, but any little bit that you can do is very helpful to an organization.
Right. Okay. So I feel not just inspired, but I think I know where I want to volunteer. Yeah, Bob, any other words from you?
Wow. Thanks again, Tammy, for arranging the interview. And thanks again, Jeff. This is right on point for our focus this year. And I'd like to remind everyone again that we do have those 3 paid volunteer days to give back to your community and support causes that you yourself are passionate about, as Jeff said. So take a moment to plan soon. We'll be launching a Slack channel today called Talend Volunteers. We'll ask that you share your stories, your pics, videos, whatever you'd like, so we can follow the impact of Talendians all across the globe.
Great. Okay. I love that. And so be on the lookout for the Slack channel. We'll also post this video on Talend, along with a link to some of Jeff's information. So great. Thank you. Thank you so much for joining me today.
Hi everyone, my name is Josif Igna. I'm based in Bonn, Germany, and I've been with Talend for about 4.5 years. For those who don't know, I'm originally from Romania, but I've been living in Germany for more than 20 years now. Today I will share with you some information about one of the volunteering projects that I support. It's a small orphanage in northeast Romania called Casa Ioana, which got its name from an old lady from England called Joanna. In 1990, while she was suffering of terminal cancer, she watched a BBC documentary about the horrible situation of Romanian state orphanages, and she decided to help. Shortly before she died, she donated about 20,000 British pounds to an NGO to fund an orphanage in Romania. And to make a long story short, this is how Casa Ioana was born. About 15 years later, due to some unforeseen circumstances, the NGO, which provided all their funds, stopped their support overnight and without any warning. It was at that time that a friend of mine from Romania called me, and after telling me about the situation there, asked me whether I can help. I decided to help by giving out a certain monthly amount. But on top of that, I also talked to some of my friends and to people at church, and some of them decided to help too. Over the years, I got to personally know the people who run the orphanage, and I helped organize several trips with a bigger group of volunteers. We went there and helped out with house renovations. We spent time with the children. We helped them with their homework. We took them to movie. We involved them in home projects. and we did many other activities. I can say that my respect for them and my desire to help only grew stronger. There is one particular story that I'd like to share with you, and that is because it makes me very proud of Talend. In 2020, just after the pandemic started, I was on the phone with Christy, the guy who runs this orphanage, and he told me that he only has one laptop, and of course that is not enough for 20 children to do remote schooling. He didn't have any money to buy laptops, and although he contacted a few IT companies in Romania, none of them had any laptops available for donation. I told him that I will check to see if Talend can do something about it, and after talking to the CTO and to the IT department, we gave them 20 laptops, old laptops, but still in a very good shape for remote schooling. I can say that the joy of those children's faces was really great when they received those laptops. Last year, when Michelle told us, when she announced that we get 3 free days for volunteering work, I was super happy. I'm really excited to go back in the summer and to visit them and to spend some time with the children. Oddly enough, every time I go there, I feel like I receive more than I give. Spending time with these children and with people there gives me a different perspective on life and helps me appreciate more what I have. I feel very blessed, very privileged to have more than I need, and sharing with those in need gives me joy and a deep sense of fulfillment. On top of that, working for a company like Talend, who shares the same values and encourages us to spend some of our time and some of our talents for those less privileged, is a great motivation, and it gives me a sense of belonging. Thank you very much.
Hi, I'm Jan Bernhard and I'm a strategic architect at Talend. Summer 2021, there was a really bad flood catastrophe in Germany. My church sent service missionaries to help the people in that area. They helped to empty basements, carrying out all the damaged furniture and trash, cleaning floors and walls from mud, and did whatever else was needed. My family volunteered to provide dinner to 10 of these service missionaries for 2 weeks every evening. Seeing all that damage and the need of the people was really hard for those young people. So we realized that providing food was not the most important thing we could do, but spending time with them, having fun, was maybe even more important as a balance to what they experienced during the day. We enjoyed those evenings really a lot, especially our kids did. It was not a burden for us, but rather a privilege to support those that help others. At that time, Talend also offered 3 days for employees to work and support in that area. But at that time, I was not ready to do that. My work calendar was fully booked and my mind was telling me customers first. But when Talend told us end of last year that every employee will get 3 days of paid time off to do some kind of service or charity engagement, I was really impressed. This statement showed me that Talend was really serious about it. That I do not need to feel bad because I will not be billable for a few days, but that Talend wants to give something to our local communities. We talk so often about how we want to change the world to the better with our products. But those 3 days of service showed me that Talend is committed to make the world better, not just with our products. I'm proud to work for a company that really cares, not just about revenue, but about people. I do not know what I will do with those 3 days this year, but I know I will do something meaningful to me and to the benefit of others. Thank you, Talend. for changing the world to the better.